You got to give credit for at least this last portion and the way that they responded after the SMU game. You and I, and Kenny, all three of us thought that it was dumpster fire.
You just hate that it has to be talked about as a response.
You definitely do. But at the same time, the response could have been way worse.
Response is a response.
Everybody
thought they were going to quit after that SMU game.
Everybody did.
And I just see this matriculating in the fan base. What I saw the other day that bothers the hell out of me. Oh, you're switching up. Quit your switching up. And it's like, okay, let's talk through this for a second. The situation with this team doesn't just change game to game or week to week. It changes half the freaking half.
Yeah.
Not just me or you. You can switch your opinions.
I don't think you're really even switching opinions. I think you're just
taking the facts.
Switching viewpoint. I mean, you're just...
Well, you're taking the facts and you're putting them into context.
You're literally just speaking about what's happening, and it just so happens what's happening is switching quite often.
Yes.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
And we say all this, and now there's already talk. They haven't even done the 12 team. And Kenny, they're already talking about expanding it to 14 in 2026.
I'm down for every bit of it.
I am too. Expand it. Keep going. Kenny, have you seen what the proposal is for the expanded to 14? 3 guaranteed SEC, 3 guaranteed Big 10, that's 6. 2 ACC, 2 Big 12. So now you're at 10, and then 1 G5 representative for 3 at large. Top 2
That's
from ACC.
It's going to be that way anyway.
Is it?
I mean,
it's going to be that way anyway, so why not?
Yeah, likely.
I don't mind it. If it gets the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, all those power conferences on board, do it. Why not?
As long as we still get a shot.
Yeah, I think as long as any G5 still has a chance, right?
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome in. It's another brand new edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast here on Bluff City Media. I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. You can find Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media. And you can find us on Facebook as well. Just search 901 Soccer and search Bluff City Media. So tonight is going to be short and sweet. This is not going to be a super long one like we had the other day where we had to, preview the 2024 season, and to do that, we had to recap the 2023-2024 offseason. Today is just talking about the game against Las Vegas. Memphis 901 FC wins their season opener for the first time in team history. This is their 6th season in the USL Championship. They get a 2-1 win over the visiting Las Vegas Lights, who had new ownership, and we'll touch on that. We're going to talk just really how the game went. They fell behind early. They battled back, took a 2-1 lead into the half. Withstood some late pressure. Tempers flared up a little bit for whatever reason. They were able to see out the result, and you can't win them all if you don't win the first one. So it's a good start to the season. I've said repeatedly how good I think they had, how good of an off season I think they had, and that has now bled into the regular season. And today's win was perhaps even more important than it otherwise would have been, in that it was against a team from the Western Conference. I want to see is now in the Western Conference this year after the Rio Grande Valley Toros and San Diego Loyal folded last season. And the USL added 2 new teams to the Eastern Conference, North Carolina and Rhode Island. So we're going to talk about that today. Talk about the attendance. Wasn't as good as I had hoped it would be, but we'll talk about that and why the low-ish attendance is not, it's not yet time to panic about that. Despite all the good stuff they've done this offseason, we'll talk about that, and then we'll just briefly look ahead to what we got next Saturday against Indy. So all that being said, we could just go ahead and get right into it. So 901 FC comes out against Las Vegas, and they really, first 10 minutes, I would say, was a little bit cagey, kind of a cagey affair. Each team still, trying to figure the other team out, I would say, just – it's the first game of the season. 901 FC had, 4 preseason games against 2 MLS teams, a college team, and an MLS Next Pro team. So you can do all the training, all the practices, all the preseason games you want, but I don't guess that you're ever going to really figure out what you're made of until you actually have to play a real opponent in a real game that matters. And that's what today was. It was the first game of the season opener. If I'm not mistaken, 901 FC was one of 2 games going on to start the season, like the very first game of the season. It was us against Vegas, and then if I'm not mistaken, it was Pittsburgh and New Mexico, all in that 3:00 window. I also thought it was a little bit odd that not everybody in the USL Championship was playing this weekend. There were like 3 teams, I want to say, that were playing preseason games either yesterday or today, which I found very strange. It's opening day. I feel like all the teams should be playing on opening day. Now, maybe that's just me doing the old man yells at cloud routine because I don't like change, but I did find it very odd that I think Tampa played Orlando City's U23 team, maybe. Louisville was playing Knoxville, and I think Tulsa played a preseason game, which was strange to me, but it doesn't really matter all that much other than just if you're going to be the league and try to make opening day a thing, you would think you would want all of the teams in the league playing. Even if there's an odd number of teams, there should only be one team not playing if that's the case. But anyway, so 901 FC really was league-wide taking center stage, and they didn't disappoint. Like I said, trying to fill each other out the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, and then couple of half chances there for 901 FC, and then really kind of out of nowhere, Vegas went in front. They scored first, which was strange. And it's something that perhaps it was a lack of preparation, not lack of preparation, but it's something that Coach Glass talked about when he was on the radio on Thursday morning with Greg and Eli on 560. And it's something that I asked him about in the postgame is that, Vegas just had their ownership change not too long ago, and that's former Toronto Blue Jays star Jose Batista, who was like a 6 or 7 time All-Star and hit close to probably 400 home runs, I should say, in his major league career. So that's nothing to sneeze at. He's one of the more famous walk-off home runs in baseball postseason history for the Blue Jays in like 2015, 2016, where he just chucked his bat like this almost violently. And he hit the ball like 1,000 feet. It was just ridiculous, just murdered the baseball. But he's the new owner of the Las Vegas Lights, and he has, the previous owner was kind of a wackadoodle. If you'll recall, Vegas has never not been terrible, but they've always got crazy, ridiculous promotions. You'll recall one of the games they flew a helicopter into the stadium and just threw like a trunk of money out, and there's just cash flying everywhere. That like there's like swimming pools and stuff, and you can drive your car onto like a part of the field, not like the playing field, but like the outfield or something like that. Like it's kind of a wacky organization. But let's be quite honest, they've always been terrible. They've never at any point ever been good. They've never made the playoffs. They've had Eric Winalda as their manager. They've had Steve Cherundolo as their manager. They get a new coach every single year. Like they go through coaches the way that like porn stars in the 90s go through condoms. Like it's off. They are a terrible soccer organization. And I think that might be starting to change. That's something Coach Glass pointed out in the postgame is that this isn't last year's Las Vegas team. And I feel like gave a good account of themselves today. I would say they, took the lead. They went up 1-0 on a team that finished 4th in the Eastern Conference last year and made a nice run in the U.S. Open Cup. I'm not exactly sure what the 901 FC defense was doing on that goal. I think there probably must have been some sort of communication breakdown because it was – I've got their roster right here. I don't remember who got the goal. I want to say it was 27. Valentin Noel they said, yeah, go. And he just went and shot and scored. And Tyler Derrick, full stretch. And when you kind of are allowed to shoot unopposed from the half circle on top of the 18-yard box, there's not a lot that many goalkeepers are going to be able to do with that. But one thing that Coach Glass has preached at Media Day and after the preseason game against the U of M and at the jersey reveal the other night is that, this team is full of high quality character guys, and they're going to fight for each other, and they're going to fight for the team, and they're going to fight for the club. They're going to fight for the city. And that's what they did. They went behind 1-0, and with it being the first game of the season against an opponent that you haven't really been able to scout because they didn't finish putting their roster together until yesterday, which was crazy because these game notes that they sent over to the folks at 901 FC are like woefully and inaccurate and incomplete because they made a bunch of changes to it yesterday after they'd already sent it. Like they signed 6 new players and added a couple of assistant coaches in between when they sent this information to 901 FC and when the game kicked off today. So, they got, new ownership, trying to get it to where it's not a laugher of an organization. They're not there yet, obviously. I do apologize. That's the refrigerator refilling the ice machine. But, it's 901 FC falling behind early was not great, but they fought back. They fought back. They didn't throw in the towel. They didn't get down on themselves. And they did what Coach Glass has been preaching, where they're going to fight. And they came back, and Bruno Lapa had a great cross into the box and took a crazy bounce or two, but Careaga was there to poke it in. And right there, you're 1-1, right back to where it needs to be, okay? And then just before the half, how many times over the years, especially the dark days of 2019 and 2020, did we see 901 FC be the team that conceded right before the end of the half and right before the end of the game? Like, I felt like that was almost a weekly occurrence, and you could set your watch by it. And it was just one of those, okay, here it comes. Thankfully, that has not been a problem in quite some time. And now 901 FC appears to be the one scoring right before the half and right before the end of the game. If you think back to the Birmingham Legion game in 2021, the Tampa Bay game last year, scoring right before the end of the game. Well, Nighte Pickering got the ball wide open 22 yards outside away from the goal and just let it rip with his left foot. And if I'm not mistaken, he scored with his left foot in that preseason game against Atlanta. And that was something that we talked about in the post game. And somebody asked him, how long do you think it's going to take other teams to realize that they might need to worry about when you're trying to get the ball on your left foot? And I said, well, also don't forget, you've got a good right foot too. So Nighte Pickering is going to be a problem for other teams to try and stop as we go forward this season. So you get to 2-1 in the locker room at halftime. Everything's going okay. Picked up a real quick yellow card to start the second half. I'm not exactly sure what it was for. Probably some sort of reckless tackle. But the temperature of the game got really hot, kind of out of nowhere. It did nothing wild or crazy. Akeem Ward got a yellow card for shoving a dude, and from where I was, I'm looking essentially down the first baseline, down to the corner flag down there. It looked pretty ugly. Not necessarily to the level of a red card, but I'm sitting there going, that seemed unnecessary. And I understand his frustration because the Vegas players, they were getting on my nerves, and I was up in the press box and not having to deal with it. But every time they went into the box, one of their players went down, contact or no contact, it didn't matter. They'd just go down. And so that was I could see where 901 FC defenders would get frustrated with that. And then every time the referee blew his whistle, didn't blow his whistle, flag went up, didn't go up, went left, went right, they were doing this number right here. Whoa, yeah, like this and like this and like this, and like just wave your hand. Like they must have. I tweeted it out. They must have gotten a killer arm workout in from waving their arms around like maniacs the entire second half. Like what? Like there weren't, as we call it in the referee field. There were no KMIs. I didn't think there were any key match incidents. There weren't. The referee didn't have to do a whole lot. There were a lot of fouls and like simple fouls in the midfield, but there were no like game-changing call / no call. So I don't understand why the Vegas players got so up in arms. And I get the frustration of 901 FC's players to where like you guys are waving your arms around like maniacs and you're flopping around on the ground like fish every time you go into the box. I would probably get a little bit frustrated with that too. So the Akeem Ward shove, yellow card was fine with me. Apparently it looked a lot worse than it was. I had one or two people reply to me and say, yeah, he got shoved, but then he went down grabbing his face and bounced around on the ground for a few minutes. So, but I mean, easy yellow card in my opinion, nothing more though. But it got to a point where late in the game, Vegas is looking for a goal, and they started to crank up the pressure, and they forced a couple of really good saves out of Tyler Derrick. One thing that I got nervous about up in the press box is it had been cloudy and overcast the whole day, and then all of a sudden, when 901 FC is trying to protect a 2-1 lead with 15 minutes left in the game, the sun comes out, and Tyler Derrick has to stand there like this, keeping the sun out of his eyes for the last crucial minutes of the game. I was like, oh, this is where something goofy and stupid happens. Luckily, it didn't. And that's something that Coach Glass has talked about, is tightening it up defensively from last season. I believe at Media Day, he said they gave up there were several games where they gave up some cheap goals, I believe is the phrase that he used, which I would not disagree with. I seem to remember, I don't remember the game, the opponent, or how the game finished, but there was one where 901 FC was at midfield trying to send a ball in and just deflected off of the other team's leg and rocketed 50 yards in for a goal. Like that, I mean, there's just like weird, goofy stuff like that. And with the goalkeeper having to do this to keep the sun out of his eyes, I was kind of expecting that to happen, but that didn't happen. And that, I think, just further speaks to the mentality and ability that this team has to fight for each other, fight for the city, and be able to see out the result. It got into stoppage time, and there were one or two times where even clearing the ball, I think Tulu had a really good clearance where he didn't just boot it out, which is, everybody's natural instinct is we're trying to kill time. Here's the ball, just get it out, just get it away so that we can get back and organize and set up and that sort of thing. And he cleared it, but he cleared it 75 yards down the field to the other corner flag. And there wasn't a 901 FC player to give chase to it, which was just fine because Vegas had to go down and get it and bring it all the way back up. And you were able to burn some time that way. So that was a good, smart, solid clearance, I thought. And then, it's I said it earlier, you can't win them all if you don't win the first one. 901 FC has won the first one for the very first time in team history. It's against the team in the Western Conference, and you got 3 points in the standings. That's something Coach Glass said in the postgame. He's like, we're already ahead of where we were last year. Last year, after one game, we had no points. This year, after one game, we've got 3 points. So I think, all in all, not a scintillating game by any stretch of the imagination, but not a snoozer either. Nighte Pickering with probably a goal of the week candidate, I would say. Granted, I haven't seen any other games today, but I would be hard pressed to see something else surpass that because that was a great goal. Banger alert, as they say. And you closed it out. I think I won't say a lot, but I think we found out some stuff about this specific team today. They are able to both respond to a little bit of adversity, and that they are able to, when the pressure gets cranked up, not crack and see out a result. So I think those are both good things. Just a couple of other quick things other than the game itself that I wanted to touch on. The field. Now, the field, obviously we all know the limitations and the drawbacks to playing, soccer in a baseball stadium. And the field looking good in March is nothing new. But this is probably the best I've ever seen the field look at a 901 FC game. Based on one or two conversations that I had with a couple of people at the jersey reveal on Wednesday. It was, I think it was before the event actually started. We were just down there kind of chit-chatting and schmoozing. I like to schmooze. And was told that apparently they have a new grounds crew this year who actually cares about doing a good job. And for today, I would 100% agree with that. It looked very good today. You could see a little bit of the infield dirt, and that's just part of playing soccer on a baseball field. Lord help us get a stadium, please. But if what I was told is true and accurate, then last year the grounds crew was just like, as long as we throw something down, that's fine, and we've done our job. And last, there were several days last year where it not only did it not look good, but it looked bad. For now, A+ job to the grounds crew at AutoZone Park. I thought the field looked as good as it ever has. The real test is it'll look maybe not every bit as good, but it'll look very good next week when we play Indy. The challenge is going to be once baseball season starts and you got to pick it up and take it out and bring it in and put it back down and pick it up, take it out, put it back in. And then it gets real hot and you're not getting a lot of rain and it's going to stand up. And so not out of the woods yet, I don't guess you could say. I don't even know if that's really probably the best way to put it right now. But first test passed, not just for the team, but for the grounds crew as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we shut it down, we're a little just under 20 minutes here. The attendance today, 3,290, I believe, is what the attendance was. That is lower than last year's season opener against Loudon, which was 4,001. But it is higher than the attendance 2 years ago, the season opening attendance 2 years ago against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, which was like 2,300 people. If I recall, there may have been an extenuating circumstance in there. I think there was some snow or ice out the day before, which kind of maybe hindered people's ability to get to the game. But a lot of people have messaged me and asked what I thought about it. And I thought it looked fairly similar to just about every crowd that we had last year. Nothing to write home about, but nothing to get into a panic over. 3,290, obviously not a number we were hoping for, especially considering that 901SC has killed it this offseason, both roster-wise and marketing community stuff-wise, and that we've gotten more coverage from the local media than I feel like we've probably had since the inaugural season. Like I mentioned, Channel 5 had done a big piece on the news. 24, Channel 3, Commercial Appeal, Daily Memphian, myself, Bluff City Media, Anthony Sane, have all been at some or all or few or whatever of these events that 901SC has been doing. And I personally expected the attendance to be higher today. But given that it's not, I still don't think it's time to panic. And you guys know me. You guys, like, I'm prisoner of the moment. Like I said in the season preview episode of this show, where things aren't going well, everything's the worst, get rid of everybody, bring in 1 million new people, fire everybody, blow it up, burn it down, whatever. And when things are going great, rocking and rolling, run it back, all that stuff. The reason I'm not hitting the panic button on the 3,290 attendance just quite yet is because I have seen 901SC doing more than they ever have. And, I feel like I've sort of went into this on the season preview episode, is that this is going to be the sort of thing that takes time, right? You're not going to be able to just do a little bit right before the season starts, or during the off season, I should say, and immediately get a sold out 8,000 people in AutoZone Park. That's not going to happen. Like I said, in the attendance piece I wrote for Bluff City Media, it's my pinned tweet at LDoc93. You can go read it. Doing all of the stuff that they've done is not going to be a magic bullet that brings the attendance from 3,000 a game to 8,000 a game. But if they keep at it and they keep doing it, I think it's going to get a little bit better every game. That's what I think. And one of my concerns has always been that if and when 901SC ever started doing what they were supposed to do, that if it didn't immediately result in a sold out stadium, that they would say, well, we tried, it doesn't work, we tried, after one game. I'm not nearly as worried about that as I used to be. Maybe just a little bit in the back of my mind. Maybe, it may take a while for me to get away from that mindset completely. But I think with Jay Mims, I feel like I've said this in person to some of y'all, but I think Jay Mims might be the hardest working guy in the city, not named Paul Young, the new mayor. And that he is doing, I feel like, everything that he can. Like, he is moving, grooving, schmoozing, whining, dining, whatever you want to call it. He's busting his ass. And I feel like when they get more soccer people in there, it's going to, like, they had the box office was open. You could walk up and buy tickets today. I think they maybe 1 or 2 days last year they did that. I think that's one thing that really hurt the attendance, is the inability to get tickets, because it's Memphis. Memphis has always been known as a walk-up crowd kind of town, right? I think the attendance is going to get better this year, guys. I really do. Would I have liked the crowd today to have been better? Yes, I would. Do I think it's time to hit the panic button and say it ain't ever going to get any better? No, I do not. I think if they keep at it and the team keeps winning, I think that number will go up. I think the litmus, the real test, is going to be once we get into the summer, right? Once there are no more Grizzlies, no more Tigers games, no Tiger football. So, like, if you look at the calendar, now I want to see home schedule is right here. Between the Grizzlies' last home game in April and Tiger football's first home game in late August, early September, Labor Day weekend, there are 10 Memphis 901 FC home games. That's over half the schedule. You combine that with the fact that there is going to be a ton of high-level international soccer on TV this summer, with the Euros going on in Germany and the Copa America being played here in the U.S. at night, and then the Olympics in Paris in late July and early August, which this is the first Olympics that both the U.S. men and the U.S. women have qualified for since the 2008 games in Beijing. I think if these numbers are still what they were today, with all that stuff going on, with all the soccer going on over the summer and no other competition in town, at that point it might be time to panic. But I don't think we're going to get there. I think the numbers are going to get up. What does up look like? I think we could get to probably where 4,000 is a regular occurrence at 901 FC games. And again, this is something that is going to take time. It's going to take a full season and then some. And that's something that when I had my sit-down interview with Jay Mims, he was clear about it. He's like, look, we're not close to what we want it to be and what it needs to be. We understand that. It might take all season to get as staffed on the soccer front office type side as they want to be. But look, they are very clearly, very plainly trying. And that's not, and maybe in the past they were trying and we just didn't see it. But we can see it now, or at least I can. And I feel like a lot of you can as well. With stuff like that jersey reveal the other night and them at the preseason game against the U of M the way they were, I feel much better about the long-term health of this organization than maybe I ever have, despite the crowd today, 3,290, which is not terrible, but not, below average from what last year was, yes. But I think it's going to get better because I think they're going to keep working at it. They're going to keep showing up out at Mike Rose. I had it saved somewhere, and I don't remember where it ended up, but there are several in the spring. I don't know what the fall tournament schedule is. I'll find that out in like August or late July. But, the best days to be out at Mike Rose for them are going to be days where there is a 901 FC home game that day. Last weekend, they were out there at Mike Rose, dawn to dusk, moving a lot of old merchandise and bringing that money in, which is very good for them, and that's what you should do. But there wasn't a home game last weekend, what with tonight being the first regular season game. So I think the test of how successful that's going to be is what does the attendance look like on days when there's tournaments at Mike Rose? Because if they were out there when there wasn't stuff going on at Mike Rose, or if they were out there when there wasn't a home game that day, I feel like they're definitely going to be out there when there is a home game that day. But guys, I feel good about where it's headed. I would have definitely liked the crowd to have been bigger today, and I kind of expected it to, what with the outreach that I've seen them do and the amount of media coverage that I've seen them get. But it's just, you're just going to have to keep pounding, keep grinding, and I think it'll get better. But that'll wrap it up here for us on the show tonight. Thanks everybody, for tuning in and listening or watching or wherever you're getting this. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. Before we do, next Saturday, home game, 3 p.m. against Indy 11. That is, they got the St. Patrick's Day parade going on downtown, so you might get a little bit of spillover from that. Boy, next Saturday would be a great day to bring back the green jerseys. But I think they only wore those green jerseys one time in 2019. But I tell you what, I think that was a game they won big. That might have been the Elliott Collier hat trick Bethlehem Steel game in 2019. But so the game is at 3 next Saturday against Indy. And then they're on the road the following Saturday, or they're 2 Saturdays later they're on the road at Sacramento. But next home game, Saturday, 3 p.m. against Indy 11. Be there, be square. I'll have a preview for Bluff City Media shortly before the game, and then I'll do another one of these video recaps shortly after the game. I must say, I do like the 3 p.m., being able to get home and get done doing this, and it's still only 7:30. We're not up until midnight doing this, so I'm not as tired and cranky as I normally am. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I'm Lawrence Dockery. Find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find Bluff City Media on Twitter at BluffCity_media. Facebook, Bluff City Media. Facebook, 901 Soccer. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to, as all of the YouTube people say, like, comment, and subscribe to the Bluff City Media on YouTube. If there's anybody out there in listener land or audience land or whatever you want to call it that wants to sponsor this program or any of the other programs that we do for Bluff City Media, we've got Grizzlies, we've got Tiger football, Tiger basketball, Showboats, Redbirds, 901 FC, you name it. I think probably the only thing we don't have is high school sports, and I'm sure if somebody would like to do that, we'd be more than happy to have you. Look, we're your go-to place for all things Memphis sports. We break a lot of stories. We have a lot of in-depth coverage, a lot of content, a lot of good stuff, a lot of people working their asses off covering sports in this city. So if you want to sponsor that, if you want to subscribe on YouTube, follow Twitter, Facebook, if you want to become an insider and get premium access to premium written content and be in our Discord where you can chat with Bluff City Media members and fans of the site, that's certainly something that we would like you to do. But at the end of the day, thanks everybody for tuning in, for listening in, for watching, and we hope to see you down at AutoZone Park next Saturday at 3 against Indy 11.